Obviously, we've been off for 10 days, and I hope we don't play like we've been off for 10 days. And I know I'll get a bunch of questions about Manny Bates. He was able to go through some individual workouts the last couple of days. I'm going to try to throw him into some live action today and kind of see how he does. A lot of that will determine whether he plays in the game tomorrow or not. Obviously he had a grade two ankle sprain that was pretty good, and one of the biggest things that we battle with him is trying to keep the swelling down. But doing well. We're rusty. We haven't had, a full group of guys to be able to practice every day. We have been able to get back into the gym with a good bulk of them. But certainly we're coming off a layoff. I will tell you this. We will have more guys than we had than when we traveled to St. Louis. And so that's a positive thing. So I'll take questions from you guys.
Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, good morning, Coach. You went into a little bit about you guys have been off for 10 days, and I was just curious to know if there's any similarities or differences to the 2-week pause that you had in December to this most recent pause, and just how often you guys have been able to practice in the interim and what you guys have been able to do.
Yeah, Justin, these pauses are weird because what happens is when you have somebody who comes down as a positive, the first thing you have to do is you have to pause. You pause for a couple of days just to figure out, who's caught up in contact tracing. And so at that point, you're not able to have anybody on the court because you want to be careful and make sure that nobody's able to who may have had contact can pass along to anybody else. And so it takes you a couple of days after that. And then obviously during those couple of days, we are testing. We are finding out, and this is, trust me, I'm not Mandy Cohen, so I don't know this, but we are finding out that anywhere from 3 to 5 days after you have a positive, there's a chance if anybody was affected, that it typically turns around at that point. And then that's just NC State. So I'm not saying that across the country. I don't know any of that stuff. So it's weird. I don't know just in the difference, meaning how many days compared to how many days we had before. But I can tell you now, I would say it's probably been half that time, maybe a little over, maybe 6 days or so. And I think by the time we play would have been 12 days before we could get on the court.
And I have a quick follow-up. You already talked about Manny Bates a little bit, but how's Braxton doing?
I think he's fine. It's the hardest thing about him is you don't know he's injured unless you identify it yourself. He will not go tell the trainer. He will not come to me. And so we have to kind of really watch him because he's the type of guy who will play through any type of injury. And he seems to be doing well. My biggest thing for him is to get his mojo back. With him, I told someone yesterday, right now we're playing two freshmen a lot of minutes. And ideally in this league, it's tough to win with freshmen. You have, a freshman point guard and a freshman shooting guard, which both of those guys can play two positions. Because Braxton hasn't had a great start of the year, and then obviously the other guy that we were counting on as a, kind of a red shirt freshman is Sebron, which we looked at as a sophomore, similar to Manny because he was an academic red shirt. You were hoping that those two guys would be playing really good basketball right now, and then you could bring the freshmen along a little bit slower. They've been thrown in the fire, and they've had to play a lot of, big time minutes. I know you guys have covered this league for a long time. When you look at most programs that are playing freshman point guards or freshman guards, they typically struggle, and I think that's part of our issue right now.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Go ahead, James.
Hey, Kevin, hope you're doing well. I was looking at your numbers on Synergy Sports. Your half-court offense has been really, really good this year from an efficiency standpoint, but your transition has struggled. Why exactly is that? It seems like maybe it would be the other way around, if that makes sense.
Well, James, I know a lot of people will write, man, the offense always struggles. If you look at us for our last 4 years, including this year, 3 to 4 years, we've always been one of the highest scoring teams
Right.
in our league, which is mind-boggling that, oh, man, the offense, half-court offense. what happens is, one of the things is I don't think that we've created as much turnovers, and especially in league play off our defense, so we're not getting out in transition well. And then when you look at our numbers, defensive rebounding, they've gotten better, but initially early on they wasn't as good. And so in order to get out and run and get some easier baskets, you have to defensive rebound, and we hadn't done that, and it's hurt us a little bit more with Manny being out.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, Kevin, I'll have a follow-up to this, but I did want to ask sort of a general question. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you guys were dealing with during this stoppage in terms of maybe number of positive tests or quarantines, not specific guys or anything, but can you talk in a big picture sense of how much you had to deal with during this stoppage?
Aaron, it's been the toughest thing, and of course, none of us have training for this. This is a pandemic. It's tough because I find myself waiting for test results pretty much every day. And after when we got back from I want to say Florida State, we had our first positive with a tier 1, and honestly, I didn't know, we couldn't figure out where that came from. And then we had to stop, and then we tested. Then a couple of days later, we ended up with another one. I think totally we had 3 of them, which it's tough because every time you get one more, you have to go back and figure out how was that person involved with somebody else. There's no training for this, as you know. We're blessed and fortunate in athletics that you can test a little bit more frequently than most people. But Aaron, it's one of the hardest things you can do. We're wearing a Connect tracing device, and that sometimes helped you. But at the end of the day, that's not it doesn't give you the full picture, because, you have to think about this now. When you travel, you're talking about the airplane. When you land, you talk about the buses that you have to ride, from the airport to the hotels. You think about the meeting rooms. You think about when you eat, anytime that you meet for meals. And so at any point, all of those could be contacts. And so it just affects your whole program. It's the right thing to do. We have to do it, but you can't get any consistency, and you can't get a flow in your team, because on any given day, you can release 1 or 2 guys this day. The next day, you can release another guy. So it's tough. I've had more Zoom calls with our players saying, "Hey guys, I just want to give you an update. This is what's going on. This game's going to be canceled. Here's what's happening right now." And so we've done that more than I've ever had to do in the past.
And the one thing I wanted to follow up on there, the Hurricanes have had some concerns, and Rod Brendamore, the coach, was talking about, we followed all the protocols and it still got in our locker room. Yeah, he said, I thought we had done a good job. I'm curious, in your situation, do you kind of look at it and you say, we did what we could and it still happened? It's just the challenge of things. And does that cause you to say, is there anything else we can do further beyond the protocol?
Yeah, when this thing first started, and these are great questions. When this thing first started happening and I would get a positive, man, it would bother me. It really would. And then I started thinking, how can I be bothered with what's going on around the world? And nobody can figure it out. The smartest scientists in the world don't know how you contact it. You really don't know where you're getting it from. And so we're doing everything that we can do from our standpoint. Now, that being said, I'm not with our kids from 5 to 1 in the morning, and I hope they're not out that long. And then you add the fact that you have more students coming back to campus. Not that that's a bad thing, but it also gives you an opportunity for those guys to be able to mingle with more people. I think we're doing everything that we can. When you look at some programs, I think I get this debate all the time is, why don't you do what so-and-so is doing? And they don't have any breakouts. It's not necessarily true. It just depends on when maybe some teams had a bunch of guys that got affected in the summertime, or, for example, our women team was rolling, and Wes and I was talking every day, and we were comparing notes how to do this, and all of a sudden it happens. It's going to happen to everybody, unfortunately. And, in our situation, I feel bad for our kids because it's happened to us. And it just happened to happen when we had some injuries too. So with Manny Bates being out, it changed a little bit. But Aaron, you can do everything that you you plan to do. We have a group that meets on every Thursday with sports medicine. We talk about the things we can do that we're doing well, we can do better. And at the same time, there's no way to ever tell how you can get affected by the virus right now. That's what makes this virus so dangerous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin, I think you just answered this with Aaron's question, but I'll ask you. Just in the preseason when we talked, you were so worried about stuff like this happening. You just didn't know what was going to happen. Has it been worse than you could have imagined at this point?
I won't say worse, and here's why I won't say worse is because worse means that we're not playing basketball. And so, when we shut down, last year, that was worst. And, even though our country is a lot worse off than it's been ever, we are having the opportunity to play. And I don't take that for granted. Our players don't take it for granted. I heard one of my older upperclassmen yesterday tell our guys, man, hey, we don't know if this thing's going to end tomorrow or whatever. So we got to obviously practice and play like it's our last opportunity. So I don't think it's worse than I thought. It is worse because the virus has spread so much and we can't control it. But from our standpoint, getting the opportunity to play has been a positive thing for us.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
Go ahead, Rob.
Coach, what are your thoughts on North Carolina, the problems they present, and what type of growth have you seen from the Tar Heels since you last played them?
Gotten a lot better because they're one of the programs. When you look at it, they're probably one of the few programs that hadn't had the pause in a while, and they've gotten a lot better. Love and R.J. Davis are playing really good basketball. Seems like they're becoming a little bit more comfortable. Love, I think he was the rookie of the week and did a tremendous job. He's playing with confidence. He's starting to shoot the ball a lot better. And with RJ, I think they've settled him down a little bit by bringing him off the bench to be able to see the game, the flow of the game. Of course, anytime you're going to play Carolina, one of the things that they hang their hat on is their tremendous rebounding team. They've gotten better. They get out in transition, as you know. And Baycoat has become a really, really tremendous low post scorer. He's done a really good job. And so they're playing with a lot of confidence. They're shooting the ball a lot better than we played them. And I think they're taking care of the basketball.
There were some struggles before the break that you guys had. Do you think the fact that maybe playing a rival gives it a little more juice than you would have coming cold after being out so long?
Rob, I don't know what we have. I only got one thing to go by. We played St. Louis and we had a great first half. And I'm gonna say the reason why we didn't have a great second half is because we just didn't have enough bodies. So I don't, when every coach, when I leave and we're headed to the game tomorrow, I'm gonna feel confident in my group. But I don't know how my team will react with a 10-day to 12-day off, not really having everybody on the floor at the same time. I hope we have learned, but this will be a tough game to judge anything from, because I know the last time we played at Florida State, and obviously Florida State played like they could have beat the Lakers that day. I wish I had a game in between, or I wish I didn't have a layoff where I could be able to see my team a little bit more. But we're going to come out and play. Our guys are excited about getting back on the court. But as far as how we play and how much rust we have on us, I couldn't answer that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rod.
Hey, Coach, I know you touched on it a little bit, man, but how have you kind of tried to help your team learn to adapt to the everyday challenges of this season, whether it be the basketball, the COVID, everything that's kind of involved in running a program?
Man, it's tough. I've tried to be there for our guys in so many ways. The mental part of this thing and the stress of having to quarantine for 7 days, 14 days, 10 days has been really tough on these kids. I don't know how anybody can judge a young man about how he plays in these unusual circumstances. And, I get it. Obviously, because you play a part of a team and you're part of a college and you're supposed to represent your school the best way, but it's so unusual. I want you to think about, walking you getting recruited into a place like NC State, and you typically play in front of 21,000 people, especially during conference. And we've led been a top 10 team in the country in attendance since '99. But you walk out there to play a game and you walk out there and there's nobody there. Nobody thinks about that part of it. The other part of it is having to navigate, not having a relationship with anybody. As a freshman, when you come in, you don't even have a relationship with anybody that's part of your classmates that may not play basketball. You don't get the chance to see anybody unless it's online. And so it's so difficult that basketball players and basketball coaches are creatures of habit. And when you take that away, it makes for a stressful year and stressful situation for most of them. Some people are doing well in it, but most are struggling. And I try to, make sure that we have, we have great sports psychiatrists that if our guys need to have a chance to sit down and talk with someone, coaching staff, we've been more, hey, reach out to these guys, talk to them at night, try to FaceTime them, try to do as many Zooms as you can, because it's so bigger than when you get them outside of basketball, then that 2 hours you may have them.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, that looks like it's it. Appreciate you joining us.
Guys, listen, thank everybody, this thing's spreading, and I would ask you guys, man, if you can, do your part to help us. I know it's I know it's tough. If you got anybody that's older, your parents or anybody, please encourage those folks to get the vaccine. I know it's some people will not take it, but I don't want anybody to lose someone because they refuse to take it. So if you guys will just do your part, and I don't get a chance to tell you guys as much, but I know you're going through stuff too. I know we get so much attention because we're the basketball team and I'm the basketball coach. But at the end of the day, man, I'm going to pray for all of you guys because I know it's been unusual for you and I know it's been a difficult time for you too. And I pray for you and your family. And if you have kids, I know that's tough on them too because they haven't been able to be, be normal. My kids, they struggle, online class, can't hang out with their friends and all that other stuff. And so I don't take that for granted, man. I appreciate all that you guys do. I know you have a tough job and it's a tough job to report and how you have to do it now. And it's different. Even Gary and I'm so used to having Gary meet me for radio in the locker room. And now I've had to teach him how to use Zoom. And just so you know, he's awful at Zoom, just so you know, trying to record that. So we've gotten better. But I appreciate you. I really do. And I wish everybody well. And I've said this before. If somebody that you know is down and there's anything that I can do to help them, if it's a small video, it's a phone call, just let me know. Reach out to Craig and I'll try to do as best as I can. Thank y'all. Have a blessed evening.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
See you. Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.